Tell me the truth, Clara." The words cut through the room, sharper than the storm rattling the windows behind her. Clara Hayes froze, her hands trembling as they brushed down the sleeve of her cardigan, trying to hide the faint scars that mapped her forearm like a story she had never meant to share. Nathan Cross stood at the threshold, his height commanding, presence magnetic, his sharp gaze scanning the room with a precision that made her stomach twist. Every instinct screamed at her to retreat, yet her feet felt rooted, as if the floor itself conspired to keep her there. The wind outside howled, rattling the panes, a reminder of the night pressing in from the city streets beyond. Yet inside, time seemed to suspend, hanging between her pulse and his stare. Nathan's eyes narrowed, a flicker of concern buried beneath the surface of controlled authority, and Clara realized he saw everything. The marks, the hesitation, the quiet strength she had cultivated just to survive. She swallowed hard, tasting the metallic tang of fear mingled with an unexpected flicker of trust she did not know she could feel. He stepped closer, boots clicking on the hardwood, each echo like a drumbeat in her chest. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, voice low, careful, threading through the tension like a lifeline. Clara wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but words lodged in her throat, blocked by the weight of years spent hiding, protecting, surviving. Nathan's gaze softened minutely, though the edge of vigilance never left him, and he scanned the room for unseen threats, hands subtly adjusting the cuffs of his tailored jacket, ready to intervene if needed. The quiet intensity of the moment pressed against Clara's ribs, making her breath shallow, heart racing. Yet in that compressed time, she felt seen in a way she had never known, recognized not as a victim, but as someone worthy of protection. Outside, rain cascaded in sheets, hammering on the roof, blending with the low hum of the city, lights flickering through the wet streets, reflections shimmering across her apartment floor. Nathan's eyes flicked back to hers, calculating, measured, aware of every nuance in her posture. The way her fingers flexed against the fabric, the way her shoulders tensed, and he noted the resilience hidden beneath fragility. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, until a soft click of a lock-in. The hallway reminded her of the world beyond the apartment, the dangers that might still exist. He tilted his head slightly, a silent question, a signal that she could choose to respond, to share, or to retreat behind the walls she had built. Clara exhaled slowly, the sound trembling in the space between them, feeling the gravity of his presence, the promise contained in his unwavering watchfulness. And somewhere in that charged moment, she understood that the night had shifted, that nothing would be the same, and that answers, and the protection that came with them, would only unfold as the hours stretched ahead. Clara Hayes moved toward the kitchen counter, her hands still shaking, and Nathan Cross followed silently, his presence a quiet anchor in the room. The rain continued to streak down the windows, each drop reflecting the city lights in shimmering, distorted patterns across the floor. Clara tried to steady herself, gripping the edge of the countertop as if it could hold the storm of emotions threatening to overtake her. Nathan's eyes never left her, noting every small gesture, every tremor, every flicker of hesitation. He did not speak, but the weight of his observation pressed against her like gravity, making it impossible to ignore the unspoken questions in the air. She took a slow breath, feeling the adrenaline ebb slightly, but the tension lingered, a taut string stretched across the room. Nathan moved closer, his steps measured and deliberate, the polished leather of his shoes making a soft click against the hardwood. Clara could feel the heat radiating from his body, a controlled warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill of the rain outside. She turned slightly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, and felt his gaze track her every movement, not judgmental but attentive, analytical, protective. The faint smell of his cologne, mingling with the scent of rain and wet asphalt drifting through the cracked window, seemed to anchor her in a strange mixture of fear and trust. Nathan's voice finally broke the silence, low and steady. "Who did this to you?" The question was simple, direct, yet carried an intensity that made Clara's pulse quicken. She hesitated, words sticking in her throat, memories of past encounters and the careful secrecy she had maintained threatening to overwhelm her. Nathan leaned slightly closer, careful not to crowd her, but close enough that his presence was inescapable. "You do not have to answer now," he added, his tone softening just enough to signal understanding. Yet the unspoken expectation remained. Clara swallowed hard, her eyes flicking toward the window, watching the rain continue to pour, reflecting the chaos and uncertainty of the night. Nathan's hand rested lightly on the back of a chair, a silent signal that he was there, ready to intervene if needed, ready to protect. Clara's mind raced, thoughts jumbled with fear, relief, and a strange spark of courage she had not felt in years. Nathan's gaze softened just slightly, and she realized he was not just observing. He was learning, understanding, and preparing to act, not out of possession but out of a sense of duty and care. The room felt charged with anticipation, the kind that made time stretch and contract, each second heavy with potential, each heartbeat echoing in her chest. Clara took a deep breath, letting her fingers relax on the countertop, feeling the subtle reassurance of his presence. Nathan nodded once, just barely perceptible, as if acknowledging her bravery and signaling that they were in this together, that the night had not yet revealed all its challenges, and that the answers she sought, and the safety she craved, would unfold with the careful guidance and unyielding vigilance of the man who now stood silently beside her. Clara Hayes sank onto the edge of the sofa, letting out a slow breath that had been trapped in her chest since Nathan Cross had entered the room. The apartment felt smaller now, the shadows of the furniture stretching long and distorted under the dim overhead light, as if the space itself was holding its breath. Nathan moved toward the window, hands clasped behind his back, observing the rain cascade in relentless sheets down the glass, reflections dancing across the hardwood floor in fractured patterns. He did not speak, allowing the tension to settle, giving Clara a moment to collect herself. Yet the presence of his gaze was inescapable, a quiet pressure that made her aware of every movement, every heartbeat. Clara's fingers traced the seam of her cardigan absent-mindedly, the memory of the bruises making her flinch slightly, and Nathan's head tilted, acknowledging the subtle sign without a word. Outside, the city hummed with late-night life, cars splashing through puddles, neon signs flickering, but inside, the storm was of a different kind, contained between them, heavy with unspoken questions. Clara dared a glance at him, catching the faint softness in his eyes, a fraction of warmth beneath the controlled authority, and it made her heart skip. Nathan shifted his weight, turning slowly to face her, the subtle movements deliberate, measured, creating a rhythm that mirrored the pounding of her pulse. "Clara, I need you to trust me," he said, voice low but clear, resonating in the confined space, filling the air with an energy that made her instinctively sit taller. She hesitated, uncertainty warring with the tiny spark of courage she felt growing inside, and Nathan's gaze did not waver, steady and unwavering, as if the room itself had aligned with his intent. Clara exhaled, feeling the tension ebb slightly, and allowed her eyes to follow his movements as he walked toward the small desk, picking up a notebook that had been left open, flipping through it absent-mindedly yet with purpose, cataloging details she had never realized he had noticed. The subtle click of the notebook against the wood was sharp in the quiet, punctuating the moment with the kind of deliberate patience that made her pulse race. Nathan approached her again, kneeling slightly to meet her eye level, a silent assertion of focus, and Clara realized in that instant that his attention was absolute, that the smallest sign of hesitation or fear on her part would not go unnoticed, nor would it be dismissed. She felt a strange mixture of reassurance and tension, her mind racing to process the unspoken communication between them, while outside the storm continued to beat against the windows with relentless insistence, mirroring the storm inside her chest. Nathan's hand hovered near hers on the armrest, not touching, not intruding, but present, a boundary of safety and intent, and Clara realized that despite the fear, despite the unknowns, she was not alone in facing the night, that he would act, observe, and intervene when necessary. The room seemed suspended in that shared rhythm, the subtle interplay of caution and trust weaving a taut thread through the air. And as Nathan finally settled back slightly, letting the weight of his presence anchor her, Clara understood that the night had shifted in irrevocable ways, that the answers, the protection, and the revelations to come were only just beginning to unfold, and that she would have to navigate them with his watchful presence. Beside her, Clara Hayes shifted slightly on the sofa, the warmth from the small lamp casting elongated shadows across the room, and Nathan Cross remained standing near the window, his silhouette framed against the cascade of rain that blurred the city outside. The apartment smelled faintly of wet asphalt and coffee, an odd combination that somehow anchored the moment, making it feel both ordinary and charged with anticipation. Clara's fingers unconsciously traced the seam of her cardigan again, the memory of the faint scars beneath her sleeve pressing on her thoughts, reminding her of the reasons she had worked so hard to stay composed in every interaction before tonight. Nathan's gaze swept over her, noticing the subtle tension in her shoulders, the quick flicker of her eyes when they darted toward the shadows of the room, and he allowed a small, imperceptible nod to signal acknowledgement, as if telling her he understood the complexity of her caution without needing words. The sound of the rain pattering against the window panes filled the silence, a steady rhythm that contrasted with the rapid beating of her heart, and Clara realized that each drop seemed to mark the passage of a moment she could not ignore. Nathan's voice broke the quiet, low and deliberate. "You have been carrying more than you should alone," and the words hung in the air like a promise, a recognition of the burdens she had hidden so well from the world. Clara exhaled slowly, feeling a fraction of the tension release, but the knot in her chest remained, a reminder that the night was only beginning to reveal its depth. Nathan stepped closer, his polished shoes making soft, measured sounds against the hardwood floor, each step deliberate, calculated, yet devoid of threat, and Clara felt the strange mix of anxiety and reassurance tighten in her chest, her senses alert to his presence, and yet drawn to the quiet certainty he exuded. The streetlights outside flickered intermittently, reflections bouncing across the wet floor and walls, painting distorted shapes that seemed to move in tandem with the storm and the rhythm of the room. Nathan moved to the armchair opposite her, sitting with careful poise, observing without imposing, creating a space that felt safe even as the weight of his awareness filled every corner. Clara's eyes followed his movements, noting the deliberate calm in his posture, the controlled strength in his hands as they rested lightly on the armrests, and she realized that in his stillness there was a plan, a readiness to act, to protect, to intervene if necessary, and that this understanding allowed her to inhale more deeply, to feel the tension loosen slightly. The apartment felt suspended in time, the storm outside and the quiet intensity inside weaving a tapestry of anticipation, trust, and unspoken communication. And as Nathan's eyes met hers once more, steady, measured, unwavering, Clara understood that she was no longer alone in facing the uncertainty of the night, that the answers, guidance, and protection she needed would unfold with his vigilant presence and deliberate care, and that the hours ahead would reveal more than she had yet dared to imagine. Clara Hayes stood by the kitchen window, watching the rain blur the city into streaks of gray and gold, and Nathan Cross remained near the sofa, his posture tense but controlled, every movement deliberate, each glance a silent question. The apartment seemed smaller now, filled with the weight of unspoken truths and the steady hum of the storm outside, the water sliding down the glass in rivulets that mirrored the tension coiling within her. Clara's hands flexed at her sides, the memory of the faint scars hidden beneath her sleeve pressing into her awareness, and she felt the pull of both fear and relief, the conflicting emotions vying for dominance in her chest. Nathan's eyes swept the room, noting the smallest shifts in her stance, the subtle tightening of her jaw, the quick dart of her gaze toward the darkened corners, and he allowed a slow exhale, a quiet acknowledgement of the storm both outside and within. Clara turned slightly, the floorboards creaking softly beneath her weight, and Nathan's gaze followed without interruption, measuring, analyzing, understanding, offering an invisible shield without overstepping, without demanding more than she could give. The hum of the city outside filled the spaces between them, a reminder that the world continued, indifferent yet alive, while inside, every detail of Clara's actions and hesitations was noted, catalogued, and respected. Nathan finally spoke, low and deliberate. "You do not have to explain all at once," his tone even but carrying the weight of intent, an invitation to trust, to reveal, to allow the connection to grow without force or intrusion. Clara inhaled slowly, feeling the tension ease just a fraction, yet aware that the night was far from over, that the shadows of her past and the uncertainties ahead demanded vigilance and patience. Nathan shifted slightly, moving closer to the coffee table to retrieve a notebook, flipping through pages that cataloged notes and observations, the meticulous care evident in every gesture, and Clara found herself studying the rhythm of his movements, the careful precision of his awareness, the quiet power and restraint, and felt a curious sense of safety she had not allowed herself in years. The storm outside continued its relentless percussion, wind rattling against the window frames, rain striking the glass with a measured insistence, while inside, the apartment seemed suspended in a fragile equilibrium of tension, trust, and anticipation. Clara's thoughts wandered briefly, the fear of discovery mingling with the budding recognition that Nathan's presence brought both protection and clarity, a structure she had not realized she craved. Nathan's gaze returned to her, steady, unwavering, filled with a silent promise that he would act when necessary, observe when prudent, and allow her the space to breathe, to think, to choose her steps carefully. Clara's heart slowed in response, her muscles relaxing minutely as she processed the intensity of the watchful quiet around her, and the room, once heavy and oppressive, felt slightly more navigable, the storm outside echoing the urgency of the moment, while Nathan's steadfast presence offered the first real sense of control she had known that night. Each breath, each glance, each measured pause contributed to a growing understanding that the night's revelations, the protection offered, and the answers she sought were unfolding deliberately, methodically, and with an unspoken assurance that she would not face them alone. Clara Hayes took a tentative step toward the living room, the sound of her shoes muffled against the rug, and Nathan Cross followed closely, his posture precise, every movement purposeful, his eyes constantly scanning the room and the muted shadows that danced across the walls under the warm lamplight. The rain outside had lessened to a steady drizzle, casting a soft, rhythmic pattern against the windows, a calming counterpoint to the tension that still hummed in the apartment. Clara's fingers fidgeted at the hem of her cardigan, tracing the subtle fabric as she tried to steady her thoughts, the faint memory of the hidden scars pressing at the back of her mind. Nathan did not speak immediately, instead, allowing the quiet to stretch, creating a space where Clara could feel both observed and safe, the balance delicate but unmistakable. He moved to the bookshelf and picked up a small framed photograph, studying it silently before turning slightly, his gaze meeting hers with a weight that carried both curiosity and concern. "You do not need to say anything if it is too much tonight," he said, voice calm and deliberate, the soft timbre cutting through the background murmur of the city and the dripping rain. Clara exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and apprehension, and allowed herself to sink slightly onto the sofa, letting her shoulders relax just a fraction as Nathan approached the coffee table, hands clasped loosely in front of him, observing without crowding, offering a presence that was both commanding and protective. The apartment smelled faintly of wet concrete from the rain outside and the lingering aroma of the tea she had brewed earlier, and Clara found the combination grounding, anchoring her to the moment, giving her a foothold in the midst of uncertainty. Nathan's gaze continued to follow every subtle gesture, the flexing of her hands, the shifting of her weight, the slight trembling of her jaw as she processed the lingering emotions of the night. He finally moved to the armrest beside her, stopping just short of touching, but close enough that the space between them seemed intentional, a silent signal that he would act to protect, to observe, to intervene if necessary, and that she could rely on his awareness. Clara felt a strange surge of gratitude and tentative trust, the tension in her chest loosening enough to let her breathe more fully, the storm outside fading into a rhythm rather than a threat. Nathan's voice broke the quiet again, measured and deliberate. "We will address this carefully, together. Nothing will move forward until you are ready." Clara nodded slowly, the words settling over her like a shield, a promise, and she realized that for the first time in what felt like years, she did not have to face the uncertainty alone. The city lights reflected in the puddles outside, shimmering across the floor and walls. And in that reflection, Clara felt a tentative clarity, an understanding that the night's events, the protection offered, and the careful, watchful presence of Nathan would guide the path forward, and that the hours ahead would unfold with purpose, intention, and the steady reassurance of someone fully aware of both the stakes and the fragility of the moment. Clara Hayes sat quietly on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap, eyes tracing the rain streaking down the windows as Nathan Cross moved deliberately around the apartment, his presence steady, measured, commanding yet unintrusive. The soft hum of the city outside blended with the gentle drip of water from the roof, a rhythm that mirrored the slow, deliberate unfolding of the night. Clara's thoughts flickered, the memory of the hidden scars beneath her sleeve pressing against her mind, and she felt the weight of vulnerability mingled with a tentative spark of trust that Nathan's watchful gaze inspired. He paused near the bookshelf, fingers brushing lightly over the spines of books, cataloging the details of her life with an attentiveness that was both methodical and profoundly observant. Clara noticed the subtle shift in his posture, the way he stood, poised to act, yet allowing her space, and she realized that his awareness encompassed both her well-being and the unseen pressures of her past. Nathan's voice cut through the soft sound of the rain, calm, controlled. "You do not need to rush any answers tonight. We will take this one step at a time." Clara inhaled slowly, letting the words settle in her chest, feeling the tension ease just a fraction, her pulse finding a steadier rhythm. The warm lamplight cast elongated shadows across the hardwood floor, creating a dance of light and dark that reflected the unspoken complexity of the evening. Nathan moved closer, his gaze fixed on her, noting the subtle shifts in her expression, the small movements that betrayed uncertainty or fear, and in his stillness, she sensed both protection and patience, a silent understanding that she would not face the night's uncertainties alone. Clara's breath deepened, the anxiety coiling within her loosening slightly as she felt the weight of his presence, an unspoken reassurance that she could navigate the moments ahead with him by her side. Outside, the city pulsed with life, lights reflecting off wet streets, cars moving in careful rhythm, pedestrians hurrying past under umbrellas. Yet within the apartment, time seemed suspended, each second weighted with observation, care, and quiet vigilance. Nathan shifted to the armrest beside her, stopping just short of physical contact, close enough that the space between them felt intentional. A boundary defined by respect and intent. Clara's eyes followed his movements, noting the careful precision in every gesture, the deliberate patience in every glance, and she felt a tentative courage rising, the understanding that the night's revelations, the protection offered, and the unfolding connection would guide her through the uncertainty. The storm outside softened to a gentle drizzle, the patter against the window syncing with the slower rhythm of her heartbeat, and Nathan's presence remained a steady anchor, the room filled with a quiet intensity that promised careful attention, deliberate care, and the beginnings of trust as each moment stretched forward, hinting at answers and clarity yet to come while keeping her firmly aware that she was not alone in facing the hours ahead. Clara Hayes leaned back slightly, letting the faint glow from the table lamp illuminate her features, her green eyes reflecting both exhaustion and the faint stirrings of trust she had not allowed herself to feel before. Nathan Cross remained a careful distance away, his posture alert yet composed, every motion deliberate, his presence filling the room with a quiet authority that seemed to define the space without dominating it. The drizzle outside had slowed, leaving behind a steady, soft rhythm against the windows that echoed the measured tempo of her thoughts. Clara's fingers flexed nervously on her lap, tracing patterns on the fabric of her skirt as the memory of the hidden scars beneath her sleeve pressed at the edges of her awareness, a reminder of the secrets she had carried alone for far too long. Nathan's eyes followed her subtle movements, noting the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her gaze flickered toward the shadows near the doorway, and he allowed a slow exhale, a quiet acknowledgement of the weight she bore without demanding explanation. "You do not have to explain everything tonight," he said, his voice steady, low, and deliberate, carrying the kind of calm that filled the room without interrupting the fragile rhythm of thought and reflection. Clara breathed slowly, letting the words settle over her like a gentle weight. A recognition of the complexity she had hidden and a promise that she was no longer alone in navigating it. Nathan moved closer, adjusting his stance so that he remained in her line of sight without intruding, each movement precise, each glance attentive, offering a silent support that spoke more loudly than any words could. The room was quiet except for the soft patter of water and the distant hum of city life, yet it felt charged with possibility, each second layered with anticipation, trust, and careful observation. Clara dared a small shift, leaning slightly forward on the sofa, and Nathan's gaze followed, unwavering, noting the courage in her tentative gesture, the subtle surrender of control that she had not offered to anyone in years. The lamplight cast long, soft shadows across the floor and walls, reflections of both the storm outside and the turbulence within her mind, and in that interplay of light and darkness, she felt a fragile sense of clarity. Nathan finally spoke again, measured, deliberate, and patient. "We will face this carefully, step by step. You are not alone anymore." Clara exhaled slowly, the tightness in her chest loosening just enough to allow a more grounded breath, a rhythm that synced with the steady presence of the man beside her. The city beyond the windows remained indifferent to the storm that had passed, yet inside the apartment, each detail, the sound of the rain lingering, the patterns of light, the precise awareness in Nathan's movements, wove a narrative of care, vigilance, and cautious trust, and Clara realized that the night was evolving, that the protection, attention, and understanding she needed were being offered patiently, deliberately, and without condition, leaving her to navigate the hours ahead with the subtle reassurance of someone fully committed to observing, guiding, and safeguarding her through the unfolding uncertainties. Clara Hayes sat in quiet contemplation, the apartment now dimly lit by the soft glow of a single lamp. Rain having eased into a gentle drizzle, the rhythmic patter against the windows blending with the distant hum of the city, creating a subtle soundtrack to the night's revelations. Nathan Cross remained near the sofa, his stance relaxed yet poised, every movement deliberate, every glance attentive, a constant presence that seemed to steady the air itself. Clara's fingers rested lightly on her lap, tracing the fabric of her skirt absent-mindedly, the memory of the hidden scars beneath her sleeve a silent echo of the vulnerabilities she had carried alone for so long. Nathan's eyes followed her subtle gestures, noting the tension that lingered in her shoulders, the quick flicker of her gaze toward the door as if expecting a disturbance, and he allowed a slow exhale, the tiniest acknowledgement of the weight she bore without pressing for answers, offering instead the quiet assurance of his presence. The soft light cast elongated shadows across the floor, walls, and furniture, creating a subtle interplay of brightness and darkness that mirrored the careful balance of fear and trust between them. Clara dared a small movement, shifting slightly on the sofa, and Nathan's gaze met hers with unwavering attention, registering the courage in her gesture, the tentative opening of a space where communication could flow. "You are safe here," he said softly, voice even and deliberate, carrying both the gravity of his awareness and the gentle promise of protection, the words settling over her with a weight that eased the tension coiled in her chest. Clara inhaled slowly, allowing the moment to settle, feeling a tentative calm wash over her. The storm outside now a background rhythm rather than a pressing threat, the apartment transformed into a space of cautious sanctuary. Nathan moved slightly closer, careful to maintain a respectful distance, hands relaxed at his sides, posture steady, his presence a quiet anchor, signaling both vigilance and patience. Clara's heart rate slowed, her thoughts gaining clarity as she absorbed the subtle reassurance in his stance, understanding that she could navigate the uncertainties of the night with his careful guidance, that the answers she sought and the protection she needed were offered deliberately and without condition. The distant city lights reflected on the wet streets outside, dancing across the floor in soft patterns, and in that reflection, Clara felt a tentative sense of hope, an acknowledgement that the night's challenges were shared, that the vulnerabilities she had hidden could now be met with deliberate care and watchfulness. Nathan's gaze lingered on her for a long moment, steady, measured, unwavering, and Clara sensed the quiet promise in his presence, the unspoken commitment to observe, protect, and guide. leaving her with a subtle but profound understanding that she was not alone, that the hours ahead would unfold with vigilance, care, and a careful, watchful presence that offered both reassurance and clarity as the night stretched onward.